Greetings, everybody joining us. Thanks for popping in this afternoon.
Yes, welcome everyone.
Good afternoon and welcome to everyone. I'm Dustin Seifert, Chair of the Department of Music and Director of Bands at Eastern New Mexico University. On behalf of our CBDNA Social Media Committee Chair, Dr. Josh Kearney, University of Nebraska at Omaha, and CBDNA President Dr. Mark Speed, Clemson University, I'm pleased to welcome you to the next session in our juried webinar series, and would note that all of these sessions will be archived on YouTube. Today's presentation is entitled Pick Both Lanes, Establishing a Successful Career as an Artist, Conductor, and Athletic Band Director. At this time, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce Dr. Amy M. Knopps, Associate Director of Bands and Director of Athletic Bands at the University of Missouri, Columbia. She will introduce her collaborators to you.
Thank you very much, Dustin. Welcome, everyone. We're so pleased you could join us this afternoon. Yes, I'm at the University of Missouri, where in our School of Music, I have the great pleasure of directing our marching band titled Marching Mizzou, our pep band titled Mini Mizzou at men's basketball games. And I also teach music education courses in that curriculum of our School of Music. I'm joined today by two of my favorite people in this world, two of my great colleagues, Dr. Andrea E. Brown from the University of Maryland and Betsy McCann from the University of Minnesota. Dr. Brown will further introduce herself.
Hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for being here with us. Similar to Amy, I am the Associate Director of Bands at the University of Maryland, as well as the Director of Athletic Bands. I lead the athletic band program, which involves our marching band, volleyball band, and basketball pep band. I also teach conducting and conduct the ensemble and teach education courses as needed.
And good afternoon, everybody. Again, thanks for joining us. My name is Betsy McCann, and I teach at the University of Minnesota. In Minnesota, I'm our Assistant Director of Bands and Director of Marching and Athletic Bands. So I direct our marching band, the Pride of Minnesota. I administer over a pep band program. We play for men's and women's hockey, men's and women's basketball. And
you can draw it, watch. You draw like that? That's a good one.
I also direct our university band, which is our third band here at the
and draw two straight lines. Parallel lines.
I hear some of us are living the same life I am. Family plus home. If you're joining in, please make sure you're putting your microphone on.
That's good. Maybe one.
Amy, I think that you're.
Thank you. Yes, as you're coming in, please mute. And as we're giving our presentation this afternoon, if there's a question that comes to mind, please don't hesitate to put that in the chat. And we're going to work to either address it as we go or certainly at the end as time allows. But today we want to invite you to pick both lanes. And we're going to talk today about the balance and certainly our love of both sides of our job in our comprehensive band program, both again as directors on the athletic side and also on the podium as artist conductors. We're going to talk further about the demands of this comprehensive position and offer suggestions to anyone out there listening today who is considering both of these lanes. And for any of our colleagues in CBDNA who oversee students, especially graduate students, we are going to talk about how you can help foster students who have a love of both the athletic side and the concert side. So first, we wanted to talk about just the historic trends of these really divided lanes. Dr. Brown?
Thank you, Amy. For the younger folks that are joining us today, they might not know exactly the history of these, but coming out of the military tradition and to the school tradition, the original band positions really were comprehensive and included all the lanes. And this was definitely the same for at the high school level as we moved into the collegiate level. But the last several decades have seen this really divide as we got more specialized, more siloed, if you will. And we have positions that are moving more in one direction or the other. There are really fewer of these comprehensive positions that remain in the profession at the collegiate level. Definitely was intended to assist with time management and focus in these areas. But an unfortunate side effect is that sometimes it can enable a class system within our profession where it might seem like some folks are not as talented that do one thing versus folks that do another thing. And so we wanted to just bring that to the light today and talk about that as we're talking about just thriving in both of these lanes, that this is just a reality of the growth and the development of our profession and as we move forward. So we thought that before we talk about maybe your journey in both lanes, that we would share a little bit about our own paths. Myself, I am from a small town in rural West Tennessee, and so I was bamboozled by my band director to play the horn in 6th grade. And because in where I grew up, marching band and spring parade band were definitely seemed to be everything. By the end of my beginning band year, I was marching with a mellophone in the parade. And I just loved so much about what I experienced. I continued to march. I was pulled in early as an 8th grader to march with the high school marching band. And so that combined with how much I enjoyed playing my concert horn just really added to my enjoyment of being in band. I actually knew in 8th grade doing these experiences that this was what I wanted to do for a living. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. But as I moved into college as a drum major, I also marched drum corps for a couple of years, but I was already feeling the need for the balance between the lanes. And so I chose to not march all the years that I was able to and spent a couple of summers at Brevard. So moved into graduate school and working on a degree in horn performance. I was eventually pulled more toward conducting and education, and I also began teaching drum corps at that point, which I would continue to do for off and on for 16 years. I realized that I had talent and skill in both lanes, but I had a knowing really early on that you could be typecast into one lane or the other. And so I wanted to just be careful and think about like how I balanced both of these lanes in my experience. I was very fortunate that my activities with pageantry and athletic bands have opened lots of doors for me, maybe initially in one lane, but with lots of hard work, I ensured to stay in both. All of my professional positions have included work in both lanes, one even with the added lane of orchestra, which I loved. And I've continued to work very hard to take part in opportunities that strengthen my artistic growth in order to move as freely as possible in both of those lanes. I'm definitely grateful for my current position at Maryland that allows me to lead an athletic band program, conduct a wind ensemble, teach conducting, because for me, that combines the best of all of my worlds.
Great, thank you, Dr. Brown. And for me, I grew up in Lee Summit, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City on the southeastern side. And if any of you are fans of the Everything Band podcast that Mark Connor hosts, I talk a lot in that podcast about my origin story. So you can listen to that small plug for Mark there to learn a little bit more about my background. But growing up, my musicianship is rooted in my flute and piccolo playing experience. And as I grew up in that, and I was very fortunate in Lee Summit to have an outstanding in total music program. And when I transitioned to the high school level, I was not only continuing to foster that musicianship, but I was fortunate enough to earn the position of drum major. So I began to have that leadership experience and really start to see how an athletic band can contribute to the game day atmosphere, in addition to our performances during halftime, pregame, on the field. So those experiences, again, both in my playing capabilities and as drum major, fueled my love for both sides as I transitioned to the University of Missouri, which again, I'm very lucky to be on faculty now. And going to the University of Missouri was actually something I was looking for, as far as a marching band component. My whole family went to the University of Missouri in Kansas City, but they didn't have a marching band. So I quickly turned my attention to the University of Missouri, purely because I wanted to be in a marching band at that level. And as I transitioned into that experience,
I'm just saying.
I was really lucky to have earned the position of drum major at the University of Missouri. And through my music education courses, and certainly in basic conducting, I started to fall in love with that side of the podium.
Oh, I keep that towel in here for my bifocals.
As I continued my art of conducting at the undergraduate level, I was really lucky to have taken lessons with Dale Lanis, who was the director of bands at the time. As you're coming in, please.
Well, they shouldn't be, because I wanted them every day.
And he really could tell that I had a great interest in learning the art of conducting. So even as an undergraduate student, I took undergraduate conducting lessons with him. I got to sit in our graduate, conducting seminar, and even had experiences, as an undergraduate student conducting a wind ensemble. And on the athletic band side, I was also lucky to have a director who knew that I loved that portion. So I was afforded the opportunity to write drill and have some different pep band opportunities. So from there, I taught for 3 years as director of bands in the Kansas City area. And then as I looked to graduate school programs, I wanted to balance both sides. So for my master's degree, I attended the University of Kansas, where my main teacher was Dr. John Lynch. And then I transitioned to the University of Georgia. And I was really excited about that opportunity. So not only I could continue studying with John Lynch, but also experience.
Are you on mute? I don't think you are. You keep popping up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for muting, but also gaining some experience in the SCC. And from there, I spent 7 years on faculty at Eastern Michigan University in their School of Music and Dance, until I was very lucky to come home back to the University of Missouri. Professor McCann?
Wonderful. Again, welcome everybody. We're so glad you're here. As you are joining, please double check and make sure you are on mute until we get to questions at the end. That'll be really helpful. So my path into this position is different than both of my colleagues. I grew up as a band kid, of course, like we all did. But when I got to high school in the suburb of Minneapolis where I grew up, I was one of those kids who was so busy, and I made the realization, thankfully, at that point, that I needed to choose. I couldn't do everything. So I had to look at everything I was doing and decide, what can I not do? And in my brain, I was like, well, I'm doing orchestra, I'm doing band, I'm doing teaching music lessons, everything is music. I should do something that's not music. And it came down to marching band or running on the cross country team. And I chose the cross country team in high school, and I did not march in my high school marching band, even though I had the opportunity to march in one of the best bands in the state. But I knew at that point I needed to make some kind of decision to keep myself well-rounded and balanced. So I did not have the marching experience in high school. Going into college, I marched in the University of Minnesota marching band and had a wonderful experience there, and then taught high school band for a number of years. And my career path, I thought, was going to be being an incredible high school band director. And I wanted to be the best high school band director out there, and I felt like that was my place. And I taught for a couple years. I got a master's degree in conducting at Northwestern and had a phenomenal experience there, and then went back into teaching high school. and kind of put my head down and did the job. And life did one of those weird things to me, which can be another conversation for another time. It's too much for now. But I ended up resigning from a position and taking this very part-time assistant marching band director job at the University of Minnesota. And I felt like I was jumping off a cliff a little bit, leaving, you know, the full-time job and going into this area teaching marching band where I did not have the same experience as my colleagues, like the people I'm talking about now. And as I took that job, I fell in love immediately. And I realized, I thought I knew that my path was going to be a great high school band director. And when I was in there doing the job, I realized that, oh no, this is what I really love. And this is what I feel like I really excel in. So I taught for 3 years as the assistant marching band director at the University of Minnesota. And like I said, that first year it was part-time, and the second year it was a little more. And by the third year, I was teaching full-time, directing a concert band and teaching, conducting, and directing the marching band. And then the head director position opened up, and I was fortunate to get that position. So I'm going into my 5th year now as the head director of athletic bands at the University of Minnesota. And throughout all this time, you know, life goes on too. I had a couple children and had to figure out how to manage having kids through all of that and balancing family through all of it. But it's been a great journey, and I love what I'm doing now, teaching at the University of Minnesota. So of course, to both teach in the marching band and athletic band side, and also teach in the concert band side and excel in both of those, it takes a lot of various skill sets and a lot of different things that have to kind of come together. And Amy's going to get us started talking about some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We thought we could continue by examining not only both lanes, but really all 3 lanes here, because we balance not only the athletic side and the artist conductor, but also our music education side as well, because that runs parallel with what we're doing on the athletic side and directing our athletic ensembles, certainly on our artist conductor side as we're leading our ensembles and providing a high quality music experience for our students. And then again, as we're teaching courses in our music education curriculum, as we're helping to develop future music educators. So even though we're really focusing on 2 lanes today, there really is that 3rd lane in that triangle, if you will. So we'll start there with this artistic conducting and musicianship. And we're here to say that, surprise everyone, athletic band directors, we are capable, we are worthy, and we definitely do and are successful in making music at a very high level. And it's almost like a little secret that some of my colleagues are a little surprised about whenever I'm at a conducting workshop or doing an honor band. Oh, wow, you're a really good conductor. Oh, wow, you're a really good musician. That's right, we are, even though we have chosen both lanes. And we pursue excellence in music in both our athletic ensembles and our concert ensembles. We have a high level of music making on this athletic band side. And I tell you what, our Hey Baby, you know, contribution, it's quite musical, I'm here to say. And then third, we cultivate and we foster our own musicianship that inspires our students to achieve a high level of musicality. And finally, you know, we really do value opportunities earned that satisfy our own musicianship as well as challenge ourselves musically. And we seek out, we value, and those opportunities not only fuel us, but then in turn help us fuel and inspire our students on both sides. And that's really important for everyone to realize. Next, on the athletic side, and again, whether that's on the field, whether that's court side, in whatever sport we're playing for, or I guess really on the ice too, near the ice, for those of you who have those hockey band responsibilities. And of course, in our community. You know, we often talk about on the athletic side, we're the soundtrack to the university and how much of a privilege it is to represent our different universities. I talk and I tell the members of Marching Mizzou nearly every day, it is an honor, it is a privilege to represent the University of Missouri. You are looked up to with great affection, and it is a large responsibility that fuels yourself with pride, but also you help communicate the pride of our university with everything that we do and what we add to the game atmosphere. It takes all of us in that game atmosphere to have a high quality athletic experience. And then next, our roles are really multifaceted. Again, just through the different venues in which we are providing an athletic band's experience and performance. And our curriculum for athletic bands are truly unique because we're asking our students to master not only the musical demands of what we do, but also our visual elements, and that package down to technique, the execution of our drill, and now even the added body movement and dance elements that are coming into our art form. And speaking of art form, just this idea of art, there is art in the show concepts that we create and the design elements. My mom, she's a folk artist. I can't draw hardly anything, but I love to create drill. I feel that that's my art form in that visual sense. And it's important to realize that. You know, on the concert side where there's an art to programming our different concerts, not only each concert, but the totality of our concert program. And the same thing exists here on this athletic side with what we offer throughout an entire season. And with that, we've got to think about the demand to diversify our music curriculum. And that's not only for the benefit of our students, so they're not playing one genre and one style throughout the totality of their marching band year, but it also is for our fan base and our season ticket holders. They deserve, you know, more than just one style of music that we perform. And now we not only have to diversify our music curriculum choices, but even the balance in our choices. We've got to make sure that we are providing an equal opportunity for our BIPOC artists to be heard in addition to our white artists. And that's certainly a lot that we're looking at. And then finally, we think it's really important to incorporate and foster the development of the 6 elements of music. Because again, don't forget that music education complement to this athletic lane. We are music educators. We are continuing to develop student musicians at this level. And we've got to make sure they're continuing to understand these 6 elements in music. Our melody, harmony, rhythm, expression, style, as well as that visual curriculum. And we've got to make sure that we're doing that through the teaching of our different concepts, their development of these skills, and of course, the repertoire that we choose for our students. And now, in addition to examining both of those lanes, let's also look ahead to these different comprehensive skills needed for the job. Professor McCann?
So any of us who are teaching and working in both lanes, I think this slide is going to be a little bit of like a yes, that is what we do kind of a discussion. For those of us who maybe are considering teaching in both lanes in the college level, or who are newer to the profession, or who have colleagues that are teaching like this, hopefully there are some things here that just light a light bulb of, oh yeah, I didn't realize that that's part of it, or that this is all part of what we do. I think we all get into what we do because we love working with people, and we love music, and we love teaching. We love making music as a community. But I think any of us who desire to teach in both lanes need to know that administration is going to be a large part of our job. And really code shifting in that way is a large part too, because there will be areas where you're in charge and you're the leader and you are the main administrator for a program, and other times where you're following somebody else and you're part of a comprehensive program and you're working together in that way. So there's a lot of navigation in that way when you're in both lanes in most programs. One thing we have to do quite a bit of is manage staff. Certainly in both our concert band lives and our athletic band lives, we often have graduate students who we're working with, or undergraduate students, music ed students who are conducting, helping out, and there's that educational aspect, but also working with them as staff members and fellow teachers. On the athletic band side too, the list of staff members you can have can just go on forever. You know, from other faculty to administrative staff to auxiliary staff, people instructing your drumline, your color guard, you know, dance, cheer, drill instructors, whatever it may be in your program. You'll have drill writers, you'll have announcers, you'll have arrangers, you'll have people dealing with your equipment and your uniforms, you'll have volunteers all over the place. And that staff is wonderful and incredible, and takes work and management to make sure that you have a system where everybody can do their best and can really get what they want out of those staff positions. So that's a large part of what we do. Additionally, we have institutional relationships inside our colleges and universities that are incredibly important and really specific to someone who is an athletic band director. Like Dr. Knopps said, we're often the soundtrack to the university, and oftentimes we are someone who is the person from our school of music or our college of music who the president knows by name. You know, we're in constant contact with our chancellor, our members of the governing board, our president, whoever that is. And we need to make sure that we're appropriately representing our school of music and our departments, knowing that. We deal with administrators on the academic side, so deans and provosts and directors, and then also people on the athletic side, so athletic directors and administrators and coaches. And those relationships on both sides are incredibly important for the continuing development of our programs. And then, of course, within our own schools of music, we have our other band faculty members and our other music faculty members. And certainly amongst the varied faculty members that we have there, we need to make sure that we're aware that they understand what's going on in our programs. And we're advocating for our programs with our colleagues so that they know that the work that's happening is very beneficial to the whole school of music, college of music, that it is something that's an incredible place for our students to be participating in. And I have found, and I know my colleagues have found, that just involving our other music teachers in the marching band goes a long, long way. You know, taking an individual instrument teacher and having them come teach a master class can open their eyes to see how much these athletic band students bring in terms of musicality and energy and all of that. So those institutional relationships are incredibly important in keeping the athletic band and the concert band place in our programs. Then, of course, and again, this is much on the athletic band side, but also on the concert band side as well, there's relationships outside the university. So do you have an alumni group, or is it a formal group or not? And how are you maintaining positive relationships with those alumni? Donor relations is a major part of our job. There may be a development officer, it may just be you, but working with the people who love your program and they have the means to help, and how can you facilitate relationships between their passions and the students who need the benefit of those passions. That's a big thing of what we do. Of course, recruiting gets us out to local teachers and local students, and you know, concert bands and athletic bands, we are all out in the schools all the time and working with students and kind of connecting with that younger student as they decide what they want to do in college. And many of us find that in the general public, we, especially if we live in a smaller town, people know who you are. If you're the athletic band director, you can't go to the grocery store without somebody knowing who you are. So we need to be aware of that, and we need to know that we are that public face for many people. A lot of the public doesn't realize that there are multiple band directors. They think that, you know, the marching band director is the band director, and we need to know that that can be the perception of some people, and make sure that we're always representing our own internal community to the external community really well. As people working in both lanes, we deal with a lot of budget And oftentimes with our athletic band budget, we have the control of deciding what goes where, but we're often doing this along with our director of bands and our director of our School of Music, and inviting them to know how we do what we do and why is really important. On the concert band side, we may have some control over our budget. We may be working with other people who control that, but it's kind of navigating where's your role and how can you involve the other people who have roles in the budget so that it's productive and works really well for everybody. We have to be travel agents doing this job. You may be traveling with your concert band, you will be traveling with your pep bands and your marching band, and some of these trips are created on a moment's notice. So that is something that we need to get used to. And we've all agreed that media and PR is becoming a larger and larger part of our job, and especially since we all started teaching from home. But even before that, not only managing staff who helps with creation of content and managing, social media, but creating ourselves and thinking, is my athletic band branding different than my concert band branding? If so, why? How is that? How are we going to manage that? And how are we going to have ourselves be out there in kind of the media and the social media world? And that's become something that we're all spending a lot more time on. So all of this administration and development can feel like it takes all of our time. And it's hard for us as directors often to remember that, no, the number one thing is our musicianship and what we're doing in the classroom, making music and performing. And to balance all of this, I think it takes a lot of social and emotional skills that we don't always talk about all the time. So Dr. Brown is here to talk about it.
Yes, we felt like it was important to definitely bring as part of our discussion today about the elements that help us to really thrive and excel in both of these lanes, the importance of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is defined as being comprised of self-regulation, self-awareness, motivation, empathy, as well as social skills, relationship management. This can be considered a soft skill, but as we were talking about putting this presentation together, we feel like it's an absolute necessity of being successful in both lanes. As Betsy stated, the position requires interacting with so many different stakeholders, and that a strong emotional intelligence is absolutely crucial to being able to process all the information that you're perceiving or receiving that's coming at you from all different places, while simultaneously formulating your reactions of how you're going to put your reactions in motion. Directors with high emotional intelligence can motivate their students better because they can understand their students' behavioral and psychological well-being. This, of course, can be true also with beyond the student population, but also with your alumni, your administration, your colleagues, your donors, and so forth. Strong emotional intelligence can also help with stress and burnout, as it can allow you to learn to be more self-aware of what your triggers are, so you can know when you need to put into action some of those balancing strategies that will help you with dealing with stress and burnout. If you're not sure that this is currently a strength for you, the good news is emotional intelligence skills can be developed. And so while you're working on all of your quarantine projects this summer, if you're interested in working on your skills of emotional intelligence, one place to start might be checking out the text by Alan Mortiboyce called titled Teaching with Emotional Intelligence.
Now, one thing that we wanted to talk about are different paths and those of us who are in different places in our careers and what we're thinking about. So one group of you out there we know are people who are considering starting a college career or going through graduate school or considering working in both lanes. And we want to talk a little bit about how this can apply to you. And then other groups of you out there, you're coming up next. So don't worry, we're considering you as well. But one thing that we all feel is really important is that your path is not a straight linear line. And we definitely don't feel like college teaching is just one step above high school teaching, is one step above middle school teaching. We really reject that idea. And just a note on the graphic here, as we were putting together the slideshow, I'm online and I'm looking for some kind of graphic to show like it's not about climbing a ladder. It's not like our path is just going to this next level and then all of a sudden you reach the top and you're a college band director and you made it. That's not it. And I was looking for a graphic and my daughter runs in and wants to know what I'm doing because there's no barrier between home and work anymore. And I said, well, I'm trying to find this and I can't find it. And she said, well, Mom, I'll just draw one for you. So this is our custom graphic from my daughter to show that it's not just a matter of climbing this linear ladder to the next job. Everything that we do as teachers at any educational level or in every area, you know, whether it be in a concert band, whether it be in DCI, whatever we're doing, it's going to create a foundation of teaching that's going to lead us to success. And if we want to go and teach at the college level, the stronger foundation we have for excellent teaching is going to set us up to be a stronger teacher. And all of these things that we're talking about balancing are a lot, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of juggling. And if we can start with a really strong foundation as a teacher, that's going to help us feel more comfortable in that area. And the areas where we feel less comfortable, then we can figure that out. But of course, teaching has to be number one. So in our work as teachers at other levels and in other areas, we found that everything is so applicable to what we do as college band directors. And we would encourage you, if you're thinking about going this route, to not feel like it's a race to get up to the next rung of that ladder that you're going for. You know, take the time and learn what you can learn from where you are right now and practice being the best teacher you can be and the best musician you can be where you are right now. And that's all going to apply directly. So that foundation we feel is incredibly important for moving into this next area if that's where you want to go. Now, if you do want to go into college teaching and you're thinking about doing concert band work and athletic band work, there are some targeted things you can do to help you get more experience to be, you know, have even more of that foundation when you get there. So Amy, I think you're taking us next to talk about some of that.
Absolutely. And this is complementing this foundation that you're building. And we advise that you definitely seek out and attend conducting workshops and also clinic sessions. And certainly, as we have seen over the course of the pandemic, so many things are accessible to us now more than ever. And that's rooted in really the philosophy that you're continuing to be this lifelong learner. And that's really because music is a subjective art form. We are pursuing excellence in what we do. Perfection doesn't exist at all. And every day we have an opportunity to learn more, to become better on both sides of what we're doing, and commit to becoming excellent in what we do. And certainly don't be discouraged as you're moving forward. There's certainly times where I have been discouraged, but that's part of the growth process. So embrace that side too. And as you're attending these different workshops and clinic sessions, and certainly concerts and different performance opportunities, start to gather different philosophies and these different perspectives on music and also the marching arts. And then leading into our next bullet point, think about, well, who do I want my own mentor to be? Who's going to champion me? Who do I believe I personally resonate with and feel that I can learn the most from, and they will have the most impact on my development? And remember, this special person, this mentor, your teacher, is going to be with you for the rest of your career. We hope, we want them to be with us for our career. So it's important in this step to really do your work, really research, get to know, and find that mentor. And then as you look to seeking out a graduate degree experience, Dr. Brown's got some pointers here for you.
I definitely want to say that Amy is so true, because your mentors might be watching your presentation that you're giving right now. So hi, Dr. Locke. But as far as the graduate degree and seeking out experiences in both lanes and applying for assistantships in both lanes, going to talk about these together. But we feel it's very important that as you're moving into searching for a graduate program, that you're honest and open with these potential mentors about what your interests are. Again, kind of as we talked about at the very beginning of the presentation, sometimes there can be this feeling that we shouldn't let our marching arts flag fly, and then we want you to be proud and feel comfortable with asking about what those opportunities might be, along with the concert opportunities. Of course, the experiences of conducting as many different types of ensembles as you can in many different places, observing rehearsals, all of those are so important as far as just fulfilling all of the lanes. But you want to make sure that you're, again, expressing your interest in what those experiences might be, and with the assistantship process, if there is an assistantship that's available that allows you to have those opportunities in the athletic band area, that you're getting in-depth opportunities there where you're not just there to help with moving equipment and those kind of kind of staffing kind of things, but also that you're having real experiences with writing drill, arranging, having the opportunity to teach drill and music during the experience, and as well as also being a part of learning about as many different aspects of the program, attending athletic department meetings as appropriate, and also learning about the spring planning process, making sure that you have opportunity to travel in the postseason, and learning about that procedure and the planning of it, and also learning about the budget and development as you can. Again, not all of that information is going to necessarily be open to you, but making sure that you have the opportunities to observe and experience as much of that as possible. But you also, as you're talking about these things with your potential mentor, you want to make sure that you understand the work expectations and how they're going to balance with your studies. Because again, you're working with your goal is to try to gain as many experiences, as much knowledge as you can while you're in this graduate experience, to make yourself ready for the next step, which is the job search.
Yes. So when you're ready to go back into our profession as a music educator, it's important to reflect really carefully on your own skill set that you gained through this experience, and think carefully about what you can truly offer a prospective program. And as you're reading these different job descriptions, it's time to be honest with yourself and truly picture yourself in that position and see if it is going to be the right fit for you. And our advice is to not settle if you can. Seek a position that will satisfy what you truly want to do, what your true passions are, which hopefully they're on both sides, and that will allow you to grow as a music educator and continue your path up the ladder, wherever that direction may be. And now for our other colleagues that are in the presentation today, we're going to talk about thriving in both lanes. So once you get this position and you're in both lanes, we're going to discuss a little bit about some personal narratives and this idea of that continued professional development. You know, for us, again, the love on both sides, we're seeking out those professional development opportunities on both sides. I personally attend our CBDNA conferences and also our CBDNA athletic band conferences. And I work to balance that professional development on both sides. Dr. Brown or Professor McCann?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think being a part of, is the other conferences that might be available to you, whether it's state MEA or Midwest and so forth. But also if there's opportunities, I know sometimes when you're in a position, sometimes there's another social faux pas for you to perhaps want to participate in a conducting workshop. But I encourage you to let that go. And as long as you fit the requirements and you're interested in doing that, definitely jump in. It's try to let that bit of pride and ego go. I personally did this at a WASB conference, and it was just a wonderful experience. And again, definitely you have to check a few things, and that's self-awareness and self-regulation, but it was a great experience.
I agree with all of that both of you said. And I'll add too, you can think about, the different areas of your job and where do you feel like you are kind of maxed out in what you can do. For example, for me, I feel like with my marching band, I'm still able to do a ton and I can develop myself and I can develop my band with what I've got. With my concert band, I love them to death and we have a great time and we play a lot of great music, but we're not able to play the top level literature out there. So I was seeking out ways for myself to artistically grow, and I looked at the professional conducting world. So I got connected with the new music world in Minneapolis, and I conduct in that area professionally. And that's been a way for me to really push what I can do with really intense, really difficult scores and professional musicians, and allows me to grow in that artistic way in a way that I can't in my current position. So there may be creative ways for you to look at developing outside of kind of what we think of as our traditional paths in that way. As far as personal wellness, mental health, and physical health, this is so hard, especially from August through December for anybody doing both lanes. But for me, I need to know what I need to do to be a good person and be a good teacher. And for me, it's running and it's biking and it's swimming, and that's my thing. And for me to be able to be a whole human being, I know I need to be doing that now and then. Now, all fall, I hold myself to no standard whatsoever. And if I get out to run for 30 minutes in 1 week, then that's great. And that's all I do, and it's okay. But I make sure that as soon as the season's done, as soon as marching band season is done, triathlon season begins. And I'm up at whatever time I have to be up in the morning to get the workout in before the kids wake up and get them to school. And then I go to work and all of that. And it's commitment, but it's what I know that I need to keep myself whole. So that's something that's worth making the time for. How about you two? What do you do in this area?
Not triathlons, but definitely time for exercise is definitely important. And I think in trying to make time to connect with friends and family is another thing that helps me with this. But I think as we all know, like through the fall, as far as like the wellness, as far as how you eat during the fall can be a challenge, because it's just like grab whatever you can whenever you can, and so that doesn't always lead to setting yourself up for feeling better in the long run. And so trying to be aware of that and doing the best I can with that, but also trying to have some grace with myself and know that sometimes you just you have to eat what's easy and tastes good in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do have to take time out to be committed to this. And if you do, that will help combat burnout. And it's hard. It's because of the demands, as we articulated earlier, are so vast in this position. And for me, sometimes if I don't have that mental energy, I've got to step away and let it go for a moment and then come back to it with just a little bit more of that fresh perspectives. But it is difficult to balance. And also what's difficult to balance in our position is our family and home commitments. For me personally, I don't have children, but I do have 2 cats, and one of which, people are seeing over here. But the other challenge in my home life is I have a mom who is living in a nursing home. And of course, with the pandemic, that is quite challenging. But those are my home commitments. Dr. Brown, Professor McCann?
Go ahead, Betsy.
Sure. So I have 2 children, like I said, and a husband who runs a business out of the house. And I will say, if you are thinking about doing this path and you want to have kids as well, it's hard. It's really hard. It's just difficult to balance everything and be there. And honestly, my situation is really fortunate in that my husband does work from home. So with the crazy schedule of having evening rehearsals and every weekend gone and all of that, I have someone who does work from home. Now that means both of us do a lot of work very late at night or very early in the morning to make up for that. But I'm lucky. And I also have family support close by, which has gotten me through this. So it's doable and it's possible, but you have to figure out how you're going to make it work, because it's certainly not easy. For any women out there who want to have children and do this, our profession is not necessarily set up well for this, and sometimes we can have ritual drinks, and I can tell you the ridiculous stories about, you know, trying to go on bull trips while I'm like have a nursing baby and all of this. But there's a lot that we need to navigate and a lot that we need to figure out, but it is possible and you can do it. You just have to be creative and figure out the path. So you can make it happen. There's a way for sure. Certainly many of us have gone through a lot of things in our personal lives and kept the job going, and that's really important. And part of how we do that is by leaning on our colleagues and having understanding colleagues and working with people who can just even say, yeah, I get it, or, you know what, let me take this for you now so you can go do that. And that's really important. And the next thing we want to talk about is how to be a colleague. And for many of us, we work with graduate students or we work with undergraduate students who are interested in going into a job like this. And they need to learn a lot to know that this is the right path for them and to be prepared for this kind of path. So if you're someone out there who's tuned in and listening, who works with people who are looking at a job like this next thing is about what you and what we can do to help kind of get them there and get them ready for this. So the first thing that's really important to us is just making sure that we model a healthy, comprehensive band program for these people. It's so easy for all of us to silo, and we're all so busy and we're doing so much, and it's so easy to do our job and take care of a thing and somebody else takes care of their thing. But that can lead to a situation where students aren't seeing us interact and students aren't seeing us work together and really take care of each other and make our whole program stronger by combining everything that we do. So if we as colleagues can make sure we're modeling a comprehensive program that respects everything that's going on in all those areas, that's going to be a great start.
Absolutely. And also this opportunity to offer opportunities to go in depth on both sides. You know, for the athletic band side, you know, think about their end portfolio and what they would need to be competitive in the job market. And this obviously is drill writing samples, any arrangement opportunities that you can provide for your graduate students so they have that not only in the music files, potentially even a recording of it. Same thing with the drill writing opportunities, not only the drill file itself, but the performance video of it, potentially a video of them teaching that drill. So their portfolio is filled with those athletic band examples. And of course, on the concert side, their podium time, their rehearsal footage, and concert footage. So again, they are expanding their portfolio so they can be competitive in that job market. And realize if these students have a love of both of these lanes, it's important for you to support that and respect their interest in both lanes. Dr. Brown?
Sure. This is kind of looking at our director of band colleagues, but you know, for our colleagues that are it's really kind of, again, like support and respect the interest in both lanes for both your colleagues and your students, and for your colleagues teaching in both lanes or striving to, because they might be in a position where they are siloed in one lane or the other, but to, you know, talk and have real conversations with them about their strengths and weaknesses, about moving into being in both lanes and really opportunities to grow. And for the grad students, you know, being mindful of those time commitments and deadlines as they relate to the athletic band GA calendar, and encouraging to explore both lanes, whether or not they have a strong desire to be in both lanes, because a future job more than likely is going to involve some aspect of oversight or interaction with both lanes. Particularly, this is important for those that haven't spent much time participating in marching arts because they were a developing musician. And lastly, I'd say, like, how do you speak about both lanes in front of your students? Do your words and your actions validate both as meaningful options? And again, this is kind of coming back to that self-awareness and self-regulation as we're assessing kind of how we talk and act about, and our actions kind of reflect our feelings about our students participating in both lanes.
Yeah, and so through our presentation today, we hope that we have inspired you to pick both lanes, don't apologize for both lanes, embrace them, and finally thrive in both of these lanes. You have that capability to be an incredible artistic conductor, be successful artistic conductor, and also have great success in the athletic band side of these comprehensive band programs. So that's our advice. Pick, embrace, thrive, use both lanes. And as we look to wrap up, we have a few minutes, and Professor McCann, Dr. Brown, let's open it all up to anyone who potentially has a question, which you can certainly unmute yourself and ask, or if there's any in the chat. And we just want to call our attention to all of our contact information that's here. So if you have an additional question, please don't hesitate to contact us via email that's listed here on this slide. So, Dr. Professor McCann?
Feel free, anyone, if you have a question, you can go on the participant list and raise your hand, or just speak up and we'll work it out, or type it in the chat. And we have a great comment in the chat here to look into smaller D3 schools if you want to participate in all three lanes. There's less siloing. You're going to be more involved in these two lanes, and also music education or your instrument as well. So that's a really great suggestion if you want to look into that. We'll go to Langston Hemingway. You can go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, everyone. It's Langston Hemingway. I'm at William Jewell College in Kansas City. Hello, everyone. I'm curious, I mean, I agree with since I'm at a small school, I'm able to do a little bit more of both laning, if you will. But you guys being at larger schools, and I'm curious, it seems that a lot of the dual laning you're talking about is dependent on the opportunities that are in front of you that are your job. So obviously you have the marching band and the athletic side, but you also have these opportunities to conduct and podium time with your own ensembles. I'm curious if you've had to sort of carve out your own lane as far as the ensemble time goes, as far as podium time goes, and if you have any suggestions for those that are wanting to dual lane, if a job doesn't readily have one of those lanes available, how they might kind of navigate that.
Betsy?
I'll take that first. Here at the University of Minnesota, we've actually put a lot of work into growing our concert band program. So a number of years ago, we had 3 bands, and we've grown it to 6, and we've been really close to getting up to 7 concert bands. And that's allowed us to offer concert band opportunities to all 4 of our faculty members, as well as our doctoral students. And that's something that we're fortunate that our director of bands has been very, very committed to. So that's helped those of us who can be siloed only in athletic bands to have a concert band. And then within my concert band, I've worked really hard on developing that ensemble and making it a place where students really want to be. And in my case, I have a mix of music majors and other majors. And the other majors are a lot of like the all-state band students who are just majoring in something else and don't have time to meet an ensemble every day. But I've had to really find those students and cultivate the ensemble and create an environment where people are wanting to get into that ensemble. So, you know, a couple of years ago, we had to switch it to be audition-based. And I was able to just create enough interest that we couldn't physically fit in the space. So that's elevated the level of the ensemble. So then, of course, I can do more difficult music. But that's been very intentional, both having more ensembles and then raising the level of the ensembles for us.
I'd say, and there's, you can find opportunities in maybe unexpected places. When I was at the University of Michigan, my position, I conducted a non-major concert ensemble, which I absolutely loved. But there was actually an opportunity that I created a chamber ensemble program for the non-music majors. And so it involved, you know, some things I didn't conduct and some things I did, but it was that I got to definitely have those interactions of coaching and teaching and working with those students. And so again, even at, you know, places where you might not think that there's opportunities, you can, you know, look and find, you know, ways to create new opportunities for yourself. And maybe, as Betsy said, it might be outside of the university as well.
Thanks for the question. So everybody, we've hit our hour, 5 o'clock. We're happy to stay on if you have further questions or if there's anything else you want to chat about. So we'll be here if you have more things you want to ask. But we do want to thank you for joining us today and thank CBDNA for the opportunity and for hosting this session and all of the sessions going on in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. And please, best of luck. We so wish you the very best in both lanes this year and in the years to come. Okay, so I'll officially stop recording, and then I think we've got a couple other questions in the chat, so we can go forward.